Hey, what's up, tribe? Thanks for tuning in to another episode of the TFC Audio Project Down Under. So, this week I'm joined by Dor Shira, who is a martial artist and movement teacher based in Melbourne. Dor's also the co founder of an online platform called Moving Creatures, which offers a really cool range of play based movement games that parents can play with their kids. So, we dig into this throughout the episode, along with Dor's inspiring journey with movement and martial arts, the concept of movement literacy and how it relates to academic learning, and the importance of cultivating a playful mindset in training and life. This week's episode is brought to you by TFC Beginner Beams. So we've been really loving the feedback and reviews on our current beam models, but one thing we hear pretty often is that they are a lot more challenging than they look, and they can be pretty tough on the feet when you first get into it. So this is great for building strength and resilience, but also can be a barrier for people who have some more significant foot or balance issues. So we're super excited to announce our latest model of balance beam, which are designed with a much wider and flatter surface, as well as built-in cradles for extra stability, making them the perfect tool for anyone, young or old, to start training their balance. Personally, I've also found that I've been getting into a much better flow on these beams, and I've been having a much easier time combining it with our hacky sack training, which is perfect for developing foot dexterity and coordination. So we've just gone with the one size for these beams, which is 90 centimeters, so there's still plenty of room to play, but it does help keep shipping costs lower, especially for our international customers. Each beam comes with access to our online beam training system to guide you along your journey, and as ever, every beam purchase plants one tree to help reforest Australia through our partnership with Reforest Now. Check out the beams on our website, and if you'd like to grab one or any other products, then as a podcast listener, you can use the code DOWNUNDER to get 10% off your order. All right. So, Dor, thanks so much for coming on the podcast, mate.
Yeah, thank you for having me, finally.
yeah, we've been battling with a few technical issues, but we've got there, third time lucky.
Yeah, let's hope.
Let's hope. I've been really excited to get you on the podcast ever since we connected a few weeks back through Instagram and then for a chat on the phone. And I really loved hearing about what you're up to. So maybe just for those who aren't aware of who you are and what you do, then we'll just start with a bit of background about yourself and what you do, why you do it, and we can roll from there.
Yeah, same. I'm really happy to connect finally. I really like what you guys are doing, and I think we really share similar values and vision.
Absolutely.
So I am Dor. I'm from Israel. I'm 39. Came to Australia about 2 years ago with my partner Jordine. She's a dancer, and she's finishing her master's in dance movement therapy. So we're here. Currently teaching in the VCA, University of Melbourne, the dance and theater, how do you say it, undergraduate?
Undergraduate.
Undergraduate, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I teach them movement and martial arts.
Sweet.
Yeah.
Oh, so
Really.
you teach martial arts at the dance school as well?
Yeah, it's kind of a preparation for their movement routine. I'm like a good warm up. So we go
Yeah.
through general movement ideas and through capoeira, a bit of kind of BJJ things,
Epic.
contact impro. But now it's mainly Zoom because of the lockdown here in Melbourne. So I do my best.
Yeah. I can imagine how hard teaching martial arts and dance via Zoom would
Yeah.
be.
Although the dancers are so talented, it's just
Yeah.
amazing. You can teach them in 1 hour through Zoom what I teach in 6 months. No,
Wow.
normal people. Yeah. It
Jeez.
yeah, it kind of relates to my project I'm going to talk about.
Yeah.
Um, so I do that. My background is martial arts. I practice capoeira for more than 20 years, and also BJJ, and I dance contact impro and Gaga method and yoga, and in general I try to move as much as often. Also
Hmm.
barefooting, I love it.
Love it.
Yeah, yeah.
That's why we get along.
Yeah. I'm also a bit of a foot nerd, as you call it. Yeah, squatting, hanging, everything you can do in
Yeah.
between. Is yeah.
I think it's hard to, sorry to interrupt, but I
No
think it's
worries.
really hard to be into all of that movement stuff like martial arts and dance and all of that and not be into barefooting, don't you reckon? Because it
Yeah.
just seems so obvious that if you dance and do martial arts barefoot, then it kind of makes sense to do everything else barefoot or as much as possible.
I think yes and no. I think that you do martial arts or my martial arts barefoot,
Yeah.
and but through the majority of the years it didn't like transform to my everyday
Oh,
life.
okay. All right.
Yeah, I was a lot in the studio, many hours barefoot, but everybody's walking with shoes, so you walk with shoes. But I think like
True.
3 years ago I had a calling to say like my feet wants to break free.
Yeah.
I don't know. I wasn't aware of like the Foot Collective or this kind of tribe of people who like barefooting. I just did it, and then after it felt so good. I started to see people with this like kind of barefoot shoes and
Right.
all this the tribe, and I really connected to it, also to the balance and playfulness, everything you do.
Yeah.
So it was
Okay,
like,
that's interesting. Yeah.
yeah, it just
It,
came about like that.
yeah, and it probably did it click a bit easier, like going, oh yeah, well I do all my movement practice barefoot. It kind of makes sense that I would do other things barefoot then.
It just, I don't know, I think as I grow older I listen to my body, and this
Mm.
listening brought it. It's
Hmm.
like it came so natural and it felt so good. Like I started to do like nature tracking, climbing mountains barefoot. It
Mm.
felt like 10 times better. I felt
Yeah.
like I truly connect with what's going on, and I have to adapt to different like terrains, and then yeah, it kind of felt, the whole body felt better. It's just came naturally, and afterwards I started to be read a bit on Katie Bowman stuff and got into
Yeah.
your work, and yeah, I'm just taking my socks off while I'm talking
Nice.
about it.
That's the way.
Yeah,
Yeah, no, you're right. It does just feel so much better. Hey, it's one of those things that once you experience it, you're like, oh yeah, what am I doing with shoes on? I can just go barefoot.
yeah,
It's freeing. It's yeah, you get a
100%.
better connection with nature and whatever you're walking on, and yeah, it's like a beautiful massage for the feet as well,
Yeah,
depending on what you're walking on.
but I think what you guys are doing and what I'm trying to do is it's a kind of to be a constant reminder.
Mm,
I think we need those establishments or those places where like kind of remind us of these rituals
yeah,
of doing things, and then when you see a lot of people like-minded, then you kind of get motivated and reminded to do it over and over again, because culture in general is not doing it, so you're like the
yeah.
resistance, and you need some fellow warriors with you.
That's a really good point actually, because the default setting, I suppose, in modern society is to sit down, to wear shoes, to just generally, I guess, be sedentary. And unless you have those reminders of other people or things in your environment that encourage you to move or to go barefoot, then you might just go. You more than likely you'll just adopt the default position
Yeah,
of being still and wearing shoes. So having like the community, like the Instagram community, for instance, is a really cool way to go. Oh, that's right. I want to balance on something today, or oh, I want to go for a barefoot walk somewhere.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, you
Uh,
get inspired, and I
yeah.
think maybe it's because we have this mirror neurons that we tend to imitate what's going on around us. We want to like, we're social beings, so we need to find people that inspire us also, yeah,
Yeah.
outside the mainstream, so remind
Yeah.
us you're not the only crazy one, you know what I mean? Maybe you're
Yeah.
the only normal one, or natural, natural versus normal. It's a big question.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Well, it's something we've talked about on the podcast before, that it is weird to be healthy these days. You've got to be weird
Mm.
to go and play out in nature, or to go for a barefoot walk, or yeah, it's there's all these weird things that that you have to do now in order to live more in accordance with your nature, which is a weird situation in
Yeah.
itself.
Yeah, it's good to be weird.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, you've obviously had a really rich movement background, something that I'm kind of jealous of, really. That I wish I'd delved as deep into all of those things, but I'm
It's
on my own journey of exploring a lot of those different things as well. And
never too late.
never
Yeah,
too late, exactly. It's
definitely.
always an ongoing journey. And I was just I mean, I'm stoked to hear more about the journey with what you're doing with moving creatures.
Yeah.
Because I've speaking of inspiration, I found that very inspiring of what you're creating
Thank
with
you.
that platform. So yeah, hit us with the background and the vision on that.
Sure, sure. Thank you. So, Moving Creatures is my new baby. I started it 3 years ago. Basically, we create movement games to inspire people to move through play. We do it like for all ages, and we primarily focus this in the start with parents and kids.
Mm-hmm.
And we create games to play inside the house where you can do like things with mundane objects. And we recently created a product called Moving Nature. It has more than 80 movement games we created. And
Mm.
we keep on kind of dropping a new game every week or every now and then to inspire people to move more. And that's the idea, of to remind them, like it's more of an approach.
Yeah.
And yeah, the idea in our games is that both parents and children move together, so it's kind of reciprocal. The What my child does, then I do, and we there is no kind of hierarchy. I'm the parent and you're the child. We play together and we learn from one another. Like the child reminds the parent what it is to be like playful, to connect to his inner child, and the parent is being reminded and is modeling like playful behavior to his child, and shows him like you never get too old to play.
Yeah.
That's play is a state of mind, and we should be there always. And for me, I get motivated to move, and I move a lot through play. I think it's the best way to learn, to enjoy, to develop, to find challenges in a kind of a safe environment. I love it in martial arts. I love it in dance. I love it in surfing. Like I just,
Mm.
and I'll tell you the truth. I feel better today in 39, although I'm training majority of my life, better physically than I've ever felt. And
Yeah.
yeah, also mentally. Just
Yeah.
want to share it with as many people as I can. Yeah.
Thanks to the play based approach.
Yeah.
Yeah. And something you said there I think is really important to emphasize is that it's a it's a reciprocal thing between the child and the parent, and that's what I really love, because the current culture, I suppose, the way the way it's sort of done mostly is that kids play, it's expected that kids will want to play, but the parents just go and generally will go and help facilitate them to play by going to a playground and saying, yeah, go play. But it's not the parents actually playing with the kids, at least not when it comes to movement. Maybe they play different
Yeah.
board games or things like that. But I think that probably stems from the overwhelming sedentary culture that we have, and parents just they're just not used to moving, and they're certainly not used to moving in ways that a child can move.
Yeah.
But like you said, it shouldn't be something that gets lost. It should be something that is always there. And if we never stopped playing with movement like we did when we were a child, then we'd never lose that capacity.
Yeah, I think it's 100%. It's a misconception of the society once like you get to some kind of age and then you stop playing because you're an adult now. I
Yeah.
think like the best adults and probably the most successful ones are the most playful ones. Like never lose that playfulness in the mind, the way you approach ideas, and in the body as well. It's like it's all connected. So
Yeah.
I think what I like about what we do is that when you become a parent, it's a perfect time to change because
Mm.
you want to be better for your child. You want to set a good example. And this reciprocal connection is so beautiful because you have like a second childhood through your child, and you can experience movement for movement, not for any like what is pure play. It's you do it for itself. It's so beautiful. It's like you live to live,
Yeah.
and I'm not going to do it so I can be more healthy, or I need to, I don't know, when you go to the gym, I want to have a better body or etc. You just do it because it's fun, and
Yeah.
because it's rewarding for itself, and you grow and you learn, and that's what I'm all about. And yeah, I think it's a good story to tell you how I got to it, because
Yeah.
that's how it leads to this idea of reciprocal connection with a student, basically. So yeah, so basically, I'll go 21 years ago. I started the capoeira, which is a very, very, I don't know, it's not very known in Australia, but it's a Brazilian martial art, which we say joga capoeira. You play capoeira. You don't fight
Mm,
capoeira. So it's
yeah.
kind of a mixture between a dance and a fight, and it's very playful. And it has live music and singing, and it was just the best party in town for me. I was like reborn when I found that. I
Yeah.
highly recommend it. You do have capoeira here in Australia, so. Um, and then I got drafted to the army for 3 years. It's mandatory in Israel.
Yeah. That's right.
And when I left the army, my biggest dream was to go to Brazil, the land of capoeira, and play with the highest level and get to know the biggest masters of capoeira. And I spent a year there, and I was truly inspired by my master. His name is Mestre Camisa, and the work he did with people from real poverty, from the favelas, the poverty area, and he got them out of drugs and into being amazing athletes and performer and martial artists through capoeira. I was super inspired by
Wow.
how he connected this martial art to a social movement,
Yeah.
and it was unbelievable. He gave them pride and health and honor,
That's
and
amazing.
yeah, I was is a great man and a great thinker also. And so then after a year, went back to Israel, and I decided to do the same. So I moved to the south of Israel, to a real rural place in the desert, and I went to study there, education and psychology, and I started to teach capoeira.
Right.
And yeah, I started to teach in the most rural places in Israel, really small, kind of periphery, uh, more poor background. And my first my first student for capoeira, he was 13. His name is Shavit, and he's now my co-founder in Moving Creature. So it
Ah,
starts with him. Yeah,
wow.
yeah, it's really a heartwarming story. And
Yeah.
so I taught like for 5 6 years capoeira in the south, and Shavit he was a kid that didn't finish high school. Really was really hard for him school, like normal school, but in capoeira he was like unbelievable. He had an amazing intelligence for movement and for teaching also kids, like emotional intelligence.
All right.
So when he was 16, I made him my assistant coach, and he was so natural, James. He was like the most natural teacher I've ever met. And this is a kid who got pounded like in school and from a really poor background, but he was shining there.
Yeah.
So I learned a lot from him. And anyways, then it was his turn to get drafted to the army. He went to the army for 3 years. Had a rough time there. Was quite a serious situation, and I went back to Tel Aviv, my main home, most of the years, and I opened the martial arts and dance studio in Tel Aviv. I did that for 5 years, and I found that again, I am in the resistance, and it's very hard to bring a lot of people to do martial arts and dance. It actually requires a lot of effort from people, and it's hard to afford it. So after 5 years, I closed the studio,
Right.
and I was in kind of like, what do I do with my life now, and where am I going? So I went to Brazil, and I took Shavit with me. I
Ah,
promised him and his dad, since he was 13, I would take him to Brazil and to experience like the biggest masters and to compete in the biggest competitions. And that
wow.
kid that kid was like, he's not a kid, like that man, he was a warrior. He came out like a warrior, and he doesn't speak English or Portuguese, and so that's why it was important for me to take him. And like we always kept in touch, and it's really one of the best long-term relationship I ever had. And we're
Yeah.
super different, me and him, like super different backgrounds, and and here starts the reciprocal kind of relationship, because I was in a place in my life that I was pretty much down. I didn't know what to do. My biggest dream of the studio kind of ended, and I was in a real crossroad. And he really picked me up there in Brazil. He kind of showed me who I am for him, and it reminded me of, like, what I need to do. And we, after 4 months together in Brazil, we had an amazing time. And I decided that, like Shavit found what he wants to do in life through capoeira, I would try and go to this kind of youth and influence them like that. So
Mm-hmm.
I went hardcore when I came back to education. I worked 6 years with refugees and youth at risk.
Back in Israel, or
Yeah, back
yeah,
in Israel,
yeah.
in Tel Aviv this time, but there was like a school for refugees and youth at
Oh,
risk, a
right.
very, very famous one. I went into the deep ends and I said, I want to educate. I want to, like, I taught history and literature, and I
Wow.
taught a lot of movement.
Yeah.
Like I put it in, and I'm like I have this character of an entrepreneur, so I created for each one of my students a personalized education plan. So each one had a mentor,
Mm.
and he every year he could choose what he wants to learn. And I found a mentor in the society, and like that will accompany him through the year, through like follow his bliss, follow his dream.
Yeah.
So I did that for 6 years, and it was a beautiful time, very challenging also. You're like everything for them when you're an educator for this kind of youth.
Mm.
And yeah, and then like a rough time. My dad passed away pretty young. He passed like at 65. And I had a big realization when my dad passed. My dad was a great dad, but he was very, like, he never took care of his health.
Right.
He was overweight. He was smoking. He never did any movement. Like, he was from the people who kind of went to a restaurant. He parked on the restaurant,
Yeah.
just not to walk. And it was kind of a parenting, a style of an old school parenting where he took care of everything I needed, but he never played with me, he never touched me, he
Mm.
never, it was all very sedentary and talking, and we never met on the physical plane.
Yeah. Yeah.
And when he was in the hospital, I understand that the only time I ever touched him was when I'm helping him now in the hospital, which is
Mm.
like a life wasted for me. Like, and I kind of I was there like 3 months in the hospital, and I came with a realization that this is going to be my life journey, to that people will to try to connect in different ways. And also that he could have lived many more years. Like, he died from Western culture diseases.
Yeah. Yeah.
He could have lived at least, I believe, like at least 20, 30 years if he only were in a different mindset about his body. But it is what it is, and
Mm.
I want to make a difference. And then it's funny. Shavit was like again helped me in that time, picked me up, and he started to play with his nephew amazing games in the house. He was really Shavit by then became the most successful coach of capoeira in the south, in the same places I
Wow.
used to teach. Yeah,
Wow.
like in the poverty, in the really rural areas, but he was extraordinary. Like, he has a waiting list from here to I don't know where.
Jeez.
He's unbelievable.
That's
Yeah.
amazing. And
Yeah.
is he still over there teaching?
Yeah,
Yeah,
100%.
yeah,
Yeah.
right, yeah, yeah.
And we run the business like through Zoom basically.
Yeah, okay.
And I got inspired by him to I saw the way he moves with his nephew and the way he kind of develops his coordination and things I've never seen anybody do with young ones.
Mm,
And then everything kind of clicked, and I told him, "Listen, we got to share this with the world." And
mm.
I came with all my entrepreneuring skills, and we just went on this journey called Moving Creatures. And 3 years after, we are selling worldwide and inspiring people all around the world. We have partners in Canada as well, and we kind of we nobody does it in the world except of us. Like we basically are, we kind of created this Bible of every week to create a movement game that people haven't experienced with their kids and to touch more. And yeah, that's my journey. I hope it wasn't too long, but
No, not at all.
it's
I
kind
mean,
of connected to what I do and my
y-
message. I'm very
for
passionate
sure.
about it. Yeah.
Yeah, and hearing the story behind something, I think, is just as important just as important as hearing the actual concept. I think, and it's a very interesting point that you make about how, well, just how you were saying that you never really connected with your father on the physical level, and I think that would be the case for a lot of people. And for me, one of my sort of fondest memories growing up was we used to have rough and tumble time where we'd set
Mm,
up a big bunch of pillows and like mattresses and things like that, and that we had three of us boys and one we had one little sister, and we'd all play rough and tumble where dad would kind of throw us around,
wow.
and we'd sort of play that kind of safe, safe, kind of risky, I suppose, but relatively safe, but just very, very much interacting on a physical level. And it was always like our favorite time. Like, oh, we get to play rough and tumble. It's like you get to let out all this sort of, I guess, pent up energy and
Yeah.
express your physicality in this way that was, I guess, is usually frowned upon in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
And even not just rough and tumble play, but um, yeah, connecting with parents and kids connecting physically, I think, is a really important thing, and it's something that we've been doing from an evolutionary
Yeah.
perspective. We've been doing it for millennia, and it's only really a recent thing that's stopped, I think.
Yeah. It's funny, you tell that story and I see that glitter in your eyes,
Yeah.
and I get emotional because for me, I know I'm doing what I'm supposed to do because this really, yeah, it's beautiful to hear. Like this is the things we remember, the
Yeah.
way the hands-on, because I teach kids for many, many years, and kids connect through the body. They don't want to connect with you through talking. They're not going to do a podcast now. They
No.
want to play. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And they learn through the body, and they learn through touch, and they learn through different variation of different games. And what we're trying to do is, I call it movement literacy. We want them to explore a range of different abilities that they can develop because the it's the perfect time when you grow up. Like 0 to 6 is the prime time for your brain development. It's
Mm-hmm.
the plasticity is at its peak. And what a better way to do it, like just do it with your family, and you also help them and they move more, and you connect on a deeper level. And what you said about the culture is that, yeah, I'm teaching for, I think, yeah, 15 years, and I can actually see the decline in physical condition with kids and youth, even the students I teach.
Mm.
Like put aside the dancer, which have amazing movement literacy, which you see that, and that's a good example. Dancers, because they danced all their life, they can imitate everything you do very, very fast and get it. And that's, I think it's important as, you know like reading and writing, how to
Mm.
move with your body.
Yeah.
And you can create so much, just expose.
it's really a language in itself, really, the language of movement, and it's something that, like, you just referred to it as movement literacy, and that's the perfect word for it, or the perfect expression for it, because it is like learning a language, and yet it is vastly ignored, I think, in our schooling system. We're all very big on numeracy and literacy,
100%.
and we get taught, the intricacies of language and mathematics and all of that, and yet the physical education is not. I don't think is really proper physical education. It's more just learning sports and
Yeah,
running and swimming and things like that, which is it's all great stuff, but it's not truly learning the language of movement, I don't
yeah.
think.
And it's not, what we try to do is what you call the meta of movement. It's not about, if you go and play footy or soccer, you learn a specific technique, so you get good at that. But what about the other things? You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Just an example, uh, my partner Jordine, she's a dancer and she's an amazing mover. But I don't know, she probably never been thrown a ball, maybe because she was a girl when she was growing up. So for her to catch and throw a ball is not the best. It's
Mm,
really,
mm,
and that's because she didn't do it as much,
yeah.
when she was growing up. And I'm trying to kind of cover the all the planes of movement you can have. And I don't think it's, and it's funny because now with neuroscience you show that you actually can solve so many things for children with movement and for adults. And
Mm,
the way we learn reading and writing and math connects to movement.
absolutely.
And
Yeah.
you can, like, through like cross movement and crossing the midline and all kind of stuff, you can actually really improve the where you learn numbers or writing and reading.
Yeah.
Yeah,
In
so it's
fact,
all
in fact,
connected.
yeah, and there's actually a book you'd probably be interested in. Actually, it's called Smart Moves.
Yeah, I read it twice.
Oh, okay, right there you go. Yeah, yeah. So she talks about in that book how the activation of the vestibular system through
Yeah,
movement and balance, and learning new skills, learning new movement skills, is an amazing way to enhance neuroplasticity and to enhance learning. And um, again, it's something that's really ignored. Like, it's not just about the importance of kids learning the language of movement in order to be confident movers and to prevent musculoskeletal injuries and all of that stuff, which is really important, but
yeah,
it actually helps their numeracy and literacy as well. And it's all very interconnected, and yet
yeah.
largely ignored in the
And
traditional system.
so the author Carola Hangoff, I think,
That's
the
it.
of Smart
Yeah.
Move.
Yeah.
Yeah, so she wrote it like 20 years ago, and I think she was a pioneer in that aspect, because today it's much more known, like,
Yes.
and
Yeah.
because neuroscience is so kind of hyping, and it should. I think the thing with her with Smart Moves, she was really promoting, I don't know, you probably read it, brain gym.
Yeah, that's right.
And brain gym is like a set of exercises of movement to evoke this kind of learning abilities. But I'll tell you the truth, it's boring.
Yeah.
It's again, it's this, let's do exercises, and I'm not into exercise. I'm like,
No.
let's make it playful, let's make it fun, let's make it creative, imaginative, let the kids create.
Yeah.
That's the way I like it.
Yeah, I think you're spot on. To be honest, I didn't actually look very much into exactly what she was promoting for the movement. I just sort of took the concept and I was like,
Yeah,
oh, that makes a lot of sense. Um, and I applied it to how I would apply it, which again is play based, and
yeah,
balancing on beams and playing with hacky sacks, and moving around on the ground in different ways. And I think all of that stuff is so key. And yeah, it's very different. Kids don't like to do exercise, and I think really neither do adults, unless
no,
there's like a really big meaning behind it. Like, unless they're like, oh, you're training for something specifically that gives you a sense of purpose. But really, it's play is the way to go
yeah.
when it comes to sustainable movement.
I think it's the way to go, and it's also an amazing way to connect.
Mm.
It's like, when you go barefooting, you really connect to the ground. So when you play with another person or with your child, or with a group of people, you connect in different levels. And we always say like the world is our playground. We can have so much. There is so much potential to
Mm.
play with objects and with people and connect. And like we know each other now only like in the mental space. But I'm sure when we get like
Yeah.
when I come to Brisbane, we can connect in a lot of different playful ways, which
Yeah.
adds a
No,
lot.
yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's interesting. You can connect. It's a different form of connection. And what you said about the environment, like I've said it before, or maybe I wrote it in a blog or something, but play is really the way you can connect with your environment. And having a play is like a mindset. Like
Hmm.
you could be walking through, it doesn't matter any environment really. It could be an urban environment or a natural environment, but if you look at the environment with a playful attitude, then you'll find ways to interact with that environment in a fun, enjoyable way generally. And I find it a lot easier, I suppose, in nature. It's like the more time I've been spending out in nature and
Yeah,
at our sort of nature campus in progress at Bush One,
yeah,
we keep
beautiful.
saying like this is just the ultimate playground. Like there's dead trees, there's a creek and that you can rock up on, and you can actually, to be honest, there's not many trees that you can climb. They're all really tall and
Mm,
straight with branches, but
yeah,
there's dead trees to balance on, and there's mountains to hike and explore, and it's just this awesome playground that is just there for us at all times, as long as you sort of have the confidence to interact with it. But if you don't learn the language of movement, if you're really not confident in your movement, then suddenly that environment becomes like more of a risky
yeah,
place full of obstacles, that things that hurt and things that are hard to navigate, and it suddenly doesn't become very fun anymore.
yeah. You need to go with baby steps if you never,
Yeah.
yeah, you never been encountered. But
Yeah.
I think when you start to play with things, then suddenly you see opportunities, and suddenly the world is more meaningful for you. And like, for example, now, like I'm really into surfing, especially since I came to Australia. And
Mm.
now when you look at the sea, you see opportunities, you know, and you
Yeah.
see opportunities to play, and you kind of, you can analyze each wave and the way you can, you know, surf on it, and you can just watch it for hours. And I always loved the ocean, but now I have a different layer. And I'm sure like when you go to the bush now, you, oh, so many things, so many options. You look at
Yeah.
textures or places, yeah, you can jump or walk.
Yeah. And even we were talking about this on another episode, but even the sort of traditional idea of work, for instance, we've been building stuff out there and sort of landscaping, and even though it's work because we're digging stuff and we're using crowbars and shovels and mattocks and all of this stuff, we're really working our body. It's really creative, and
Mm,
it feels like play in itself, where we're like, oh, what can we create? Oh, we're going to make
yeah,
this rock wall and this terrace, and we get to move our body in a way that eventually means that we have a new spot to sort of colonize, a new
uh,
spot to put stuff on, and a new spot to hang out in, and whatever. And I think, you know along the lines of what you said about the ocean, that is the power of learning movement skills, is it transforms an environment as just as something nice to look at into something that you can interact with in all of these different ways, and that's a really beautiful thing.
yeah. So first of all, I'm dying to go to
Oh
what you
yeah.
created, and
Yeah,
hopefully soon borders will open, and
hopefully. Yeah.
I'll drop by. And I think, yeah, but it's not only like I'm now in Melbourne, and there's so many options to move. Like
Mm.
I'm balancing on just, I don't know how you call it, like rails in the street.
Yep.
I'm jumping over. I'm kind of doing this my freestyle parkouring, like just I'm the guy who's dancing in the street light, or while I'm waiting for the coffee. I'm just,
Nice.
everything is an opportunity. And I see the city. I also walk a lot barefoot, and people really give me the weird looks in the
Yeah.
city. Is like extra weird.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Absolutely.
and yeah, but opportunity is everywhere, and again, it's like you said, it's a mindset. Even when I go to buy my groceries, or cooking, I'm saying to myself, how can I make it more playful? So
Mm,
how can I get out of my comfort zones? Maybe I'll go to a different section, buy something completely new, and start, cooking with it and playing with it. And it's
yeah.
it's a mode of curiosity, and yeah,
It's exploration. I like to think of it
exactly.
as creativity and exploration, and yeah, it spices your life up. You know, if you're just constantly doing the same thing, the same workout routine, or cooking the same food, or walking the same route, or whatever, then yeah, it gets a bit boring, or it's just too monotonous. Whereas your body and I think your brain really thrives on novelty,
Mm,
and both from an enjoyment perspective and also from like a neuroplasticity kind of
yeah,
point of view, the adaptability of the brain. It's really use it or lose it. Like the more you challenge it and get it to do different things, then the better it gets at doing
yeah.
different things, and then it's a positive cycle.
Do you know the podcast of Andrew Huberman?
Mm. Yeah, it's one of my
Yeah,
favorites. Yeah,
yeah, I love it.
yeah.
Also, and I don't know if you saw, he has, I think, chapter 7. He talks about brain plasticity when you're an adult,
Yes, yeah, yeah.
and I actually thought about the beam,
Mm.
uh, the thing you have on your website. When he said that one of the ways, like when you are above 25, you need to to focus when you want to learn something, and there's all kind of tricks to focus and to tell your brain, okay, I want you to build now new pathways, and one of them is being out of balance.
Yeah, yeah,
So because what it does, it's like it signals your brain to that something like is wrong, and he's got to focus. It's like evolutionary kind of circuit. So I after that I started to, while I wanted to work on things that were difficult or create in my business, I did it when I was on my slackline.
yeah. That's the way.
And yeah, and for me, like, anyways, balancing, it's really relaxing. I don't know what, but for me it's like a meditation. And
Mm.
also what he said in that podcast is about that especially adults need to go to this kind of mode of frustration of when
Yes.
not succeeding, and that's that's the main. I've been teaching this for years. I am really feedbacking failures when I teach, all the time. Like when I teach the movers, I was like, great crash, great failure, like, because I want to promote not the success, I want to promote the process,
Yeah.
and I want to promote the trial and the error, and that's, for me, is playful, because when you are in this playful mindset of like the process is it that I do the thing for itself and not for some kind of outside outcome, then you actually feel the growth. And then, like, as Andrew Uberman says, then you go have a deep sleep and you learn something new,
Yeah. Yeah. I found that really interesting as well, and could apply it to the beams and the hacky sacks, and just that sort of non-judgmental practice. Like you're not getting on the beam. Like, I mean, you are with the goal of staying on it, but it doesn't matter if you fall off. You just
Yeah,
step down and you get back on, step down and get back on. And in that sense, it really is exactly like a moving meditation, because that's the whole essence of meditation anyway, is trying to bring your focus on one thing. And if your focus strays from that, then you catch yourself and you return to, you begin again, is the
yeah,
idea, at least of mindfulness meditation. And just having that begin again mindset, and not beating yourself up for failing,
yeah,
in quotes. And I think something like one of the cardinal rules of hacky sack, which is something that I really love. Is it's no sorries. So if you're in a group of people playing
That's
hacky
good.
sack and you mess it up, then you don't say sorry, because it's like, it's all just part of the game. There's no
Yeah.
need to say sorry. And if you say, even some people play that if you say sorry, then you get a ball thrown at you.
That's good.
But yeah, it's like it's in the spirit of play. There's no need to apologize when you're playing, because it's just you're learning and connecting, and if you mess it up, it doesn't matter. You just go again.
Yeah. My partner says when she's teaching, like, fail, fail again, fail better. You know this
Yeah,
expression? It's a good one.
nice. Yeah. Oh,
Yeah.
that is good. Yeah, because you do learn. Like, that's the thing.
Yeah.
It's not like you just fail, 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 and you don't worry about it. Like, you don't worry about it, but you learn from that failure. And sometimes that learning, well, I think a lot of the time, especially when you're, especially with movement skills, a lot of the learning is subconscious. Like on the
Hmm.
beam, you're not really
For sure.
thinking like, oh, I need to fire my glute medius a bit more in this position. Your brain just takes the data and goes, oh, okay, I need to change
Yeah.
this, and then it trials another pattern, and then it goes, okay, I need to change this, and then just trial, 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 trial. But it's constantly figuring out
Yeah.
how to better succeed at the next zone. But then sometimes feedback about your technique is helpful, and
Yeah. It's important.
with the beam, it's pretty simple, because it's just literally stand on this piece of metal or piece of wood. So you don't really need feedback per se from a coach, but for a more complex skill like dance or martial arts, it can be really helpful to have a bit of feedback like that.
Yeah. I think feedback is crucial in
Mm,
general for learning. That's a proven fact. It's an art how to feedback people.
yeah.
I used to teach teachers how, like, the art of feedback. It's and I'm still learning it. Of course, it's an amazing tool. And yeah, I think what you said resonates with me. With, like, again, with this presence. When you, I like, the book Flow and the
That's one of
flow
my favorites
experience.
as well.
Yeah,
As in
I'm
Mahali.
really into it. Yeah,
Yeah.
the guy who has the longest name
Yeah,
ever to
yeah. Chick sent
express
me high.
Chicksemi guy. And I think what creates flow is exactly, it's almost synonymous to play when you look at the
Yes.
definitions. And
Yeah, yeah.
this idea of, when you are facing some kind of a challenge, if it's a movement challenge or whatever challenge, then you don't have enough of like how do I say, like, you don't have enough of concentration to focus on yourself, about who am I, what am I, you're
Yeah.
losing your egoism for a moment, and then you're losing the sense of time because you're totally immersed in the experience.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just the best feeling, and like, you feel alive, you feel, I'm doing it, and I'm that's the enjoyment.
Yeah.
And for me, that's play. That's why I feel, when I found capoeira when I was, yeah, 17, I was like, it was a revelation to me how much I can enjoy doing this.
Yeah.
And I think the thing with sports is that you gotta watch out. There, it's like kind of it can be a trap sometimes, because of the culture we live in, because after a while, maybe you're stop playing for the inward motivation, and you start playing for the outward motivation. For example, if you have
Mm-hmm.
belts or competitions, and you want it for your status in the team, or if
Yeah.
you're a professional. And I think I really kind of, in this last years, kind of took those shells off, and really enjoy doing it for doing it, and really trying to be focused on what I'm doing when I'm doing. And it's just, my body feels amazing, and also my mind, like, it's all connected. And I feel it's a part of this growing up. And that's a part of what I'm trying to do with moving creatures, is to, yeah, our dream is not to be only on parents and kids, is to be like for everyone, for like people who are elderly, for people with
Yeah.
me and younger people, for people with mental disabilities, or with challenge everyone should enjoy this, and it's just so enjoyable to me to wake up and to work slash play in what I dream, what's my passion. So I'm very
Yeah. Yeah, and I think that's
happy for it.
such a an awesome dream, because it kind of makes sense to start with kids and parents, because there's a big opportunity there for that connection, and kids, like you said, kids can sort of teach parents to get into that playful mode, and almost teach them how to reteach them how to move, I suppose, or how to explore movement.
Yeah,
And then parents get all the benefit of that movement and that connection with their child, and also model to their child what I suppose a big part of good parenting is. um, so it makes sense to start there, but at the same time, we're all humans, we're all creatures that need to move.
yeah,
No matter how old you are, no matter how young you are, no matter what kind of disability you may have, or what your background is, then we all really need movement in our lives for so many different reasons.
yeah,
And I think it's just as important as eating food, and it is a form
yeah,
of nutrient. And like,
100%.
we've both read Katie Bowman, so we're on the same page there. But it's just as important as food. And um, I love the concept, and this is similar to what we're doing. And the way I like to think about what we're doing is we're kind of teaching people how to eat or how to cook
Mm,
with movement. It's just the same as you need to learn how to cook healthy, delicious, nutritious food. That's a
mm.
skill. It's also a skill to sort of move in a way that's enjoyable and good for your body.
Yeah, and it's wholesome.
Yeah, and it's wholesome. And so having online platforms and different tools that teach people how to consume those movement nutrients in an enjoyable way, I think is really, really powerful. So I'm super excited by what you're doing.
Yeah. Do you know John Verveigh and the Meaning Crisis?
I don't think so, actually.
So everyone who's listening to this, you got to check it out.
Okay.
There's 50. It's a series of 50 hours. This guy is a professor in Canada, and he talks a lot about this connection between uh, spirituality, body, mind, cognitive science. It's just
Right.
the best. It's like the course I always wanted to have in the uni, and I never had. And
Really?
I took like almost a year to finish it, and I used to summarize everything. It's genius.
Huh.
I'll send it to you. You can share it with the
Yeah.
audience,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
it's unbelievable. But I'll just make it really short. He says it's connected to what you said. It says we have a meaning crisis in modern society. Basically, most of society is secular, and we are disconnected. Like, we are kind of believers in science, but science doesn't give us any answers
Mm,
or ways how to live through the science. It
mm,
just gives you facts.
yeah.
And it's also, science is very reductive, and it gives you um, like knowledge, but it doesn't give you participatory knowing,
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
this ways of knowing that is feeling and he says that basically what we are experiencing in the culture, there is like an increase of suicide and depression and lack of meaning in general, because we kind of killed our establishments, like of religion and stuff, because
Mm,
of the history, but we didn't replace it with anything.
mm.
So basically, it's like 50 hours of a genius professing, but he says that one of the ways to create meaning in life is to connect to this flow. He relates a lot to the flow and to like states of mind, higher states of mind that you can create with play, for example. And
Yeah.
when you experience them frequently, you have a sense of a more meaningful life because you are participating in something that is actually bigger than you.
Yeah.
And that's the thing why both of us really talk a lot about this connection. It's sometimes it's you feel it more than you can explain it. You feel that I'm not alone in this world. I'm actually a part of something amazing and big.
Mm,
Feel it
mm.
when you're in nature. You feel it when you see that kind of thing in the eye, when you encounter another person and you see, that's actually me in a different angle.
Yeah.
He's giving his gift to the world is like a flower. And I feel when I'm really starting to feel that more and more, like I feel, and when I connect it, I feel the world is playful. And that's, it's very similar again to the definition of play, to do something for itself.
Mm.
I used to ask my students, why to live? You live to live. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Live.
that's a really cool way to
Yeah.
look at it. Yeah. It's like what's the
What's the
like the
purpose?
meaning of life is just to live, just enjoy it, just
Yeah.
yeah,
And to play
and to play, yeah.
and to really, and I feel it, and I think that's what I felt in the first capoeira circle, or the first wave I ever took, is this sense of, like, this loss of self, this momentarily loss of time, and you feel so alive.
Mm.
You feel, this is what it's all about. It's like you're in love again with the world. That's why I'm very, very passionate about what you guys are doing. I feel it's on that vibe, and I'm really happy that we finally had this talk. One thing I think is that, for all the people who are listening as well, we need to combine forces. We need to be a
Mm.
tribe of all these people who are talking this language, and that's the way to create what John Verveigh says is steal the culture. It comes from the bottom up. We steal the
Yeah,
culture. We are the
yeah.
example, and then we can actually make a bigger impact on society and culture.
For
Yeah,
sure. Yeah, I think that's such an important point, and I think that's why I was so drawn to the Foot Collective as well. As it wasn't just some guy saying, "Oh, I think bare feet is good." It's like it's a collective of people who are
yeah,
all on this same wavelength, and we're trying to attract. People who think the same way, but also trying to shift the culture from the ground up because there's
yeah.
so many,
From
so
the
many
ground up, it's
forces.
exactly that. Yeah,
Yeah,
from the feet up.
from the feet up. Yeah, because there's so many forces at play that have vested interest, like powerful forces that have vested interest in people not going barefoot and staying in
Yeah,
their cushioned comfy shoes and so on and so forth. And it's a big task to change that, but the only way we can change it is with a collective effort.
yeah,
So yeah, that I guess that might be a good place to wrap this one up. And also, I'm aware that you're going to have to head off soon.
yeah.
But I
Teaching.
feel like we could chat for hours.
Yeah, for sure.
So
We
we'll
should
have to
do it
do
again.
a follow
Yeah.
up. Yeah, hopefully when you make it up to Bush One, we can do a podcast in the
Oh,
bush.
I would love that. Just open the borders, open
Yeah,
society so we can play more. But
yeah.
yeah, it's gonna take a
Hopefully,
bit more time. Yeah.
yeah, but yeah, I'm keen to explore like the concept of dance therapy and a bit more about your background. You mentioned a few other things, so
Yeah.
we'll save that for the next podcast. And otherwise, thanks again for coming on, man. I
Yeah,
really
James, it
enjoyed
was
it.
a real pleasure. Thank you for having me, and yeah, we'll talk again soon,
Yeah,
hopefully,
and we'll
and
link
play again.
everything that we like. We'll link your website, Moving Creatures, in the show notes, and
Yeah.
we'll link that maybe that thing that you were talking about with John Verveigh.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah,
And
yeah, we'll
yeah, and the
just
flow, what we talked, smart
yeah,
moves,
yeah. So
share
everyone can
everything.
check it all out and smart moves. So yeah, awesome, man. All right,
All
have a
right.
great afternoon, and thanks for listening, everyone.
Thank you, James.
Thanks.